We are in the book of Exodus, which is the second book of the Old Testament, and we're in chapter 16. So Exodus chapter 16. The whole congregation of Israelites set out from Elim, and Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. On the 15th day of the second month, after they had departed from the land of Egypt, the whole congregation, everybody say the whole congregation.
The whole congregation.
Right, the whole congregation, meaning everybody, the whole congregation complained against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The Israelites said to Moses and Aaron, "If only we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, and we sat by the flesh pots and ate our fill of bread. For you brought us into the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." Then the Lord said to Moses, "I'm going to rain bread from heaven for you. And each day the people will go out and gather enough for that day. And that way I will test them, whether they will follow my instruction or not. On the sixth day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather on other days." So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, "In the evening you shall know that it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your complaining against the Lord. For what are we that you complain against us?" And Moses said, "When the Lord gives you meat to eat in the evening and your fill of bread in the morning, because the Lord has heard the complaining that you utter against him, what are we? Your complaining is not against us, but against the Lord." Then Moses said to Aaron, "Say to the whole congregation of the Israelites, draw near to the Lord, for God has heard your complaining." And as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of Israelites, they looked toward the wilderness, and the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. The Lord spoke to Moses and said, "I've heard the complaining of the Israelites. Say to them, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall have your fill of bread. Then you shall know that I am the Lord your God." In the evening, quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a fine, flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" They did not know what it was. Moses said to them, "It is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Gather as much of it as each of you needs, an omer to a person, according to the number of persons, all providing for those according to the number of persons in their own tents." The Israelites did so, some gathering more, some less. When they measured it with an omer, those who gathered much had nothing over, and those who gathered little had no shortage. They gathered as much as each of them needed. So may God add a blessing to the reading and proclamation of God's word today. This morning, though, our text, the sacred story that we read, is one that is so essential for us to dwell in and to understand. There's so much to be gleaned from it in understanding about ourselves and also understanding about God. God has moved God's people. Last Sunday we talked about the call of Moses and how God called Moses to go and stand before Pharaoh and proclaim to let my people go. Well, God's people have been let go. They have now moved out of Egypt and they're going on their way to the promised land. They're moving from a place as God moves us. You know, God always wishes to move us from where we are to where God calls us to be. God's always looking to move us from a place of fear to a place of love. God's looking to move us from despair to hope. God's moving us from death to life. That's the movement of God's Spirit. But the problem is, as we are led by the Spirit, often to go from one place to another, in the middle is the wilderness. In the middle is a place that we often don't want to be, but God will use those places to shape us and form us even more to who God calls us to be. God's children were on the way to the promised land. Before they got to the promised land, they had to stay in the wilderness. And that's the place we find them at in this lesson that we just read from Exodus chapter 16. And what I love about this lesson you're going to see is how real the people are. You know, the cool thing about God's word is that they don't try to put masks or dress up God's people to appear in a certain way. God's people is real as you and me. And it shows us just the way people are and the way God is as well. It was the French philosopher who had the saying, Jean-Baptiste Coeur, who said the more things change, the more they what? Stay the same. Or as the scripture in Ecclesiastes says, there's nothing new under the sun. And so we can learn a lot from this story about how they were to see how we are. And I appreciate the honesty and transparency of God's people. They don't try to veil their vulnerabilities. They don't try to shade or sugarcoat their shortcomings. They don't try to commit forgery for their faults and their failures. But we just get to see God's people as they are, so we can see ourselves as we are as well. Because here they are, God's people. In the book of Exodus 16, they are 30 days, all right? 30 days, about a month. They're 30 days away or out of the moment when God parted the waters of the Red Sea. 30 days. That's it. It's only been a month since the winds of God pushed back the waters and God acted like Bounty, the quicker picker-upper, and God dried the seabed because it says they walked on dry land. It's only been 30 days since that moment's happened. And yet, they're already forgetting what God has done. It's been 30 days since they moved, since they went from being enslaved in Egypt to now moving into the freedom towards the promised land. It's only been 30 days since the chains have been cut. 30 days since they had to make bricks without straw. It has not been that long of a period of time that already they're finding themselves forgetting what God has done. And you know, one of the things you learn in life is how, I don't care how old we are, we all can suffer from short-term memory loss. When circumstances get too much in our life, we can forget about what God did just yesterday. Amen?
Amen.
Today can change the perspective of how we both see the past and the future. Because listen to the words of what they say on this moment, that when they're in the wilderness. And it's only been 30 days. Now again, we got to admit something today. They're hungry. The provisions they took with them from Egypt have run out. And they don't have food. And there isn't a Denny's nearby to have a Grand Slam breakfast. There isn't any Mickey D's with their extra value meals, right? There isn't a Panera where you can swipe your card and get a nice bowl of broccoli cheddar soup, which I like to do myself. So we have to cut them a little slack here. I mean, hunger has definitely set in. And so as they're traveling with no food in sight, they just simply begin to complain. And did you know that complaining is contagious? How once one person starts complaining, another person what? Starts complaining. And once you complain about this thing, suddenly you'll complain about that thing and this thing. And complaining can take on a life of its own, right? Because it says the whole congregation, everybody, the whole group was stuck in complaining. And if you ever traveled with kids before, Right? Daddy, are we there yet? Daddy, I'm what? Hungry. Daddy, I what?
I have to go potty.
Every 5 minutes. Right? It's too cold. Daddy, can we listen to something? It's always this complaining that continues to go on. And so they're complaining. But as they complain, just watch what happens. As they're complaining, it became so infectious for everybody that they caught it, and again, they started to romanticize about a past that never was. Sometimes in life, the present can get so difficult. The past that was so also difficult looks so much better because you already made it through that. Because it's behind you, it doesn't look as threatening as that which is around you or before you. Because listen to the words, if only we had just died in Egypt, or if only we had died with the hand of the Lord by the sea, but if only we could have just stayed in Egypt, where we ate, and it says flesh pots. Flesh pots are meat pies. If we could only have stayed in Egypt, where we had our fill of meat pies and bread. But they forget, yeah, you might have had food in Egypt, but you didn't have freedom. Right? You might have had food in Egypt, but you didn't own your own homes. You might have had food, but you were being controlled. You might have had some food, which was assigned to you, but wasn't food that you could choose or pick for yourself. But they get into this game that often we play. And I used to play it all the time myself. It's called the if-only game. If only, right? If only we had just stayed in Egypt. We do that if only game. If only what? If only I'd taken that job. Right? If only I was like him. Or if only I was like her. Teddy Roosevelt once said that when we get into comparison to others, it is the thief of joy. As we try to look at what others might have, to think if only, right? If only I had more money. If only I was born under different circumstances. If only I wasn't born with cystic fibrosis is what I used to always think. If only I didn't have diabetes. And what's really something is your if only is often the opposite of someone else's if only. Because someday you might think, if only I hadn't gotten married. And someone else is thinking, if only I had gotten married. Or if only I had kids. Michelle and I, every now and again, will look at each other and say, if only we had gotten goldfish. Or hamsters. Right? If only. But if only is a dangerous game to play. Because if only gets you stuck in a place of regrets and remorse. And it doesn't allow you to move forward in your own life. If only I was a little bit taller. If only I was a baller. That's from a song, actually. If only. But if only can exhaust us. And that's what's happening here. God's people crying out, and they're saying, if only, God. If only. But what I love here then is that God hears their complaining, and God answers. And this is what's crucial. God does not judge them for the complaining, but God says, I will provide for you. And God, it says, rains down manna from the heavens on the ground. Now, manna is kind of like our communion wafers in a way we think about it. You know, just think if every day you just had to eat saltine crackers. But that's what they have. When you have nothing, a saltine cracker is going to taste pretty good. And so God provided what they needed. And also, you know, what's amazing to me is God said, just take enough for today. Not tomorrow, just enough for today. How many of us have enough faith that if all we had was just enough for today, we could sleep at night? Think about if you didn't have a pension or 401k or didn't have a savings. Think about it. How could we sleep at night? if we only had enough for today. But yet God was calling them to take just enough for today. Because God was in the wilderness trying to teach them how to put their complete faith and trust that God will provide. And that's why this moment is central. I just want us to really comprehend today, too, for us as followers of Jesus, that this is the most important story for our Jewish brothers and sisters. Now, for us, it's the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. When God resurrected Christ from the grave, as Christians, that's the central moment of our faith story. But for our Jewish brothers and sisters, it's this Exodus. It's God leading them out of Egypt and taking them into the promised land. And I love, go down the slide for me, please, Jody. Well, this, I like that picture. You all see that? That one was a manna, right? But go down the slide. Here's what I hope today to give to you is this word, Dayanu. Everybody please say Dayanu. Yeah. All right, if you take anything from today's sermon, take Dayanu take that, understand Dayanu. Dayanu is a Jewish word, a Hebrew word, that it means, as it says there, it would have been enough. It's actually a song sung at every Seder meal by Jewish brothers and sisters. Dayanu is sung. And in essence, what it says is that it would have been enough. If God had carried out, the song goes, if God had carried out judgment against the Egyptians and not against their idols, Dayanu, it would have been enough. If God carried out judgments against their idols and not given us their wealth, Dayanu, it would have been enough. If God had given us their wealth and God did not part the waters of the Red Sea, Dayanu, it would have been what? Enough. If God had parted the waters of the Red Sea and had not led us on dry ground, Dayanu, it would have been enough. Are y'all with me? If God had taken us on dry land and dealt with our oppressors, Dayanu, it would have been enough. If God had dealt with our oppressors and not, that's what they sing, and not gathered us at Mount Sinai, Dayanu, it would have been enough. And if God gathered us at Mount Sinai and God had not fed us manna from heaven, Dayanu, it would have been enough. And I was wondering, what would my Dayanu look like? What's enough today? We live in a world where enough is never enough. Because you've always got to have a little more. My Dayanu might look in this way. You might get identified. As I thought about what I could say my Dayanu. If God gave God's grace and did not breathe the breath of life, Dayanu, it would have been enough. If God had breathed the breath of life but did not wake me up this morning, Dayanu, it would have been enough. If God woke me up this morning and did not put a roof over my head, Dayanu, it would have been enough. If God had put a roof over my head and God did not provide cleansing waters in which to clean me, Dayanu, it would have been enough. If God had provided waters to cleanse and clean, but did not put food on my table, Dayanu, it would have been enough. If God had put food on my table and God had not put clothes on my back, guess what? Dayanu, it would have been enough. If God put clothes on my back and did not put shoes on my feet, Dayanu, it would have been enough. If God put shoes on my feet and God did not give the gift of Jesus into the world, it would have been enough. Dayanu, if God gave the gift of Jesus to the world and Jesus did not die on a cross and give his life, Dayanu, it would have been enough. If Jesus died on a cross for us and God did not raise him up to eternal life, Dayanu, it would have been enough. But guess what? God did give Jesus, who did die on the cross,
Amen.
who did rise again, who gives us the bread of life.
Amen. Amen.
So today, see, that's it. Today, you are going to receive manna. Today, you are going to receive the bread of life. Today, you're going to receive God present in this meal. Is that going to be enough? And here's the thing then. It's not that having is wrong, but it's why we have. It's not that life is just complete and we don't live our life fully. But it's an understanding. Diana teaches us to have an attitude of gratitude. To be thankful for all that God gives to us. And to know this, please, to know this. That just because I am, and because you are, and because God is, you and I are already complete. We're whole. There's nothing you can buy. There's no job you can gain. There's no wealth you can earn. There's nowhere you can go. There's no title before your name, no degree after your name that will give you meaning. You already have meaning in who we are. That's Diana. And Diana for us today, I want you to think about it in this way. Instead of living life with if only, right? Instead of living life with if only I had this, if only this had happened, flip those two words around. Instead of if only, live as only if. Only if you and I would take a moment every day just to see, to know all that God gives. You know, when I was dying before my transplant, when I was very close to death, you know what I missed the most? You know what I just couldn't wait for it? I could not lay down flat on my back. I couldn't breathe. I slept sitting up for almost 6 months before my transplant. I'd have pillows. I could not lay down flat because I couldn't breathe. All I ever wanted to do again was just to be able to lay down and breathe. Because see, in life, it's the little things that you'll miss the most. And it's the little things of life that have such great meaning that you and I so often just miss. Because we get to complaining and get to saying, if only. Instead, live this way today. Live only if. Only if I would open my eyes to see the beauty of God in creation. Only if I would thank God for that right there. Only if I would learn to appreciate my family who gets on my nerves all the time. But guess what? That's who is with you. And when they're gone, you know how much you're going to miss the little things? Only if I would live a life of deep appreciation, Dayanu, and be thankful for everything that God gives. I'm going to close with a video today. This is a video done by a gentleman named Louis Schwartzberg. He's a photographer. He actually lives in California. And Louis Schwartzberg is a time-lapse photographer, meaning that when he takes pictures of things, he takes it over the course of time. He may photograph a scene for 24 hours. It's a very slow frame process done. And he'll take pictures of, there's an incredible picture he has of a strawberry beginning at its very start and growing into its full fruition within a matter of 10 seconds before you, but it took him a month to record. And so what he's done now is he's taken his photographs, the picture he's taken, and he's put it through some words to help you and I in having that attitude of gratitude, of living with Dayanu and being so thankful for all that God does around us each day. So let's play this clip.
Hi, everybody. I feel like I'm at a revival. This is great. It's great to be back in my old stomping grounds of San Francisco. When I graduated UCLA, I moved to Northern California, and I lived in a little town called Elk on the Mendocino coast. And I didn't have a phone or TV, but I had US mail. And life was good back then, if you could remember it. I'd go to the general store for a cup of coffee and a brownie, and I'd ship my film to San Francisco, and lo and behold, 2 days later, it would end up on my front door, which was way better than having to fight the traffic of Hollywood. I didn't have much money, but I had time and a sense of wonder. So I started shooting time-lapse photography. It would take me a month to shoot a 4-minute roll of film, because that's all I could afford. I've been shooting time-lapse flowers continuously, non-stop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for over 30 years. And to see them move is a dance I'll never get tired of. Their beauty immerses us with color, taste, touch. It also provides a third of the food we eat. Beauty and seduction is nature's tools for survival because we protect what we fall in love with. It opens our hearts and makes us realize we are a part of nature and we're not separate from it. When we see ourselves in nature, it also connects us to every one of us because it's clear that it's all connected in one. When people see my images, a lot of times they'll say, "Oh my God." Have you ever wondered what that meant? The O means it caught your attention. It makes you present, makes you mindful. The my means it connects with something deep inside your soul. It creates a gateway for your inner voice to rise up and be heard. And God is that personal journey we all want to be on, to be inspired, to feel like we're connected to a universe that celebrates life. Did you know that 80% of the information we receive comes through our eyes? And if you compare light energy to musical scales, it would only be 1 octave that the naked eye could see, which is right in the middle. And aren't we grateful for our brains that can, take this electrical impulse that comes from light energy to create images in order for us to explore our world? And aren't we grateful that we have hearts that can feel these vibrations in order for us to allow ourselves to feel the pleasure and the beauty of nature? Nature's beauty is a gift that cultivates appreciation and gratitude. So I have a gift I want to share with you today, a project I'm working on called Happiness Revealed. And it'll give us a glimpse into that perspective from the point of view of a child and an elderly man of that world.
When I watch TV, it's just some shows that are pretend. And when you explore, you get more imagination than you already had. And when you get more imagination, it makes you want to go deeper in so you can get more and see beautiful things. Like the path, if it's a path, it could lead you to a beach or something, and it could be beautiful.
You think this is just another day in your life? It's not just another day. It's the one day that is given to you today. It's given to you. It's a gift. It's the only gift that you have right now, and the only appropriate response is gratefulness. If you do nothing else but to cultivate that response to the great gift that this unique day is, if you learn to respond as if it were the first day in your life and the very last day, then you will have spent this day very well. Begin by opening your eyes and be surprised that you have eyes you can open. That incredible array of colors that is constantly offered to us for pure enjoyment. Look at the sky. We so rarely look at the sky. We so rarely note how different it is from moment to moment with clouds coming and going. We just think of the weather, and even of the weather we don't think of all the many nuances of weather. We just think of good weather and bad weather. This day, right now, is unique weather. Maybe a kind that will never exactly in that form come again. The formation of clouds in the sky will never be the same that is right now. Open your eyes, look at that. Look at the faces of people whom you meet. Each one has an incredible story behind their face. A story that you could never fully fathom. Not only their own story, but the story of their ancestors. We all go back so far. And in this present moment, on this day, all the people you meet, all that life from generations and from so many places all over the world, flows together and meets you here like a life-giving water if you only open your heart and drink. Open your heart to the incredible gifts that civilization gives to us. You flip a switch and there is electric light. You turn a faucet and there is warm water and cold water. And drinkable water. It's a gift that millions and millions in the world will never experience. So these are just a few of an enormous number of gifts to which we can open your heart. And so I wish you that you will open your heart to all these blessings and let them flow through you. That everyone whom you will meet on this day will be blessed by you. Just by your eyes, by your smile, by your touch, just by your presence. Let the gratefulness overflow into blessing all around you. And then it will really be a good day.